Hello, thank you for joining me. I'm Marcia Jones. I'm a nurse practitioner. For those who have not met me yet, I love functional medicine and I love helping women. And so this is a series called Hormone Rescue Series. What no one will tell you about your hormones, because we as women are all about the hormones. So this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about, and it is a new frontier. It may be something you don't know a whole lot about that you get to learn. I hope it's just as exciting and intriguing to you when after you learn this. So the gut hormone connection, banish bloating, constipation, and Candida for good. And you may be like, Marcia, Candida with the gut hormone? It's all going to make sense. Trust me. So, as I said, I am a functional medicine nurse practitioner. I specialize in helping women, particularly women and their hormones, trying to balance those out. I came to functional medicine and this hormone specialty because of my own struggles with hormones at one point. I was in my early 30s and I had hit the wall, and all these crazy things were happening, and my body was in chaos, and I was exhausted. I had hit the wall. And I found out through my research and through utilizing functional medicine techniques that it was from adrenal burnout. And that adrenal burnout, in the phase of that, I had hit almost every other hormone imbalance along the way, because the adrenals impact our body and our health in so many different ways. So if you've not seen that adrenal module, go back and take a look at that, watch that one. You'll hear more of my story there. But that is how I came to be here in this functional medicine space. And I have helped thousands of women free themselves from that physical, mental, and emotional state of exhaustion that comes from hormone imbalance and adrenal fatigue or burnout. So I would love to help you. And that's part of what I'm doing with this series, is teaching you that some of the things I know, to give you a better grasp on what's happening so you don't feel like you're losing your mind. Because unfortunately, in conventional care, you don't always get all this information because it isn't taught. So primary care is not the place for this. Okay. Even, I have done primary care. This isn't the place. The amount of work that it takes to unravel all of these hormones is complex. And so it takes a lot of time, effort, and focus and one-on-one, working together very closely to identify what's happening and to unravel it. And I do hope you watch every module in this series. There are 5 total topics. And I said, this one is the gut. So I would like to, in this section, is introduce you to the gut and the microbiome, which I can talk about constipation and bloating, the hormone connection to gut health, and Candida overgrowth. So a lot to cover. So you got gut problems? Is that why you're watching this one? Maybe you skipped around on some of the series and this is the one that intrigued you, because maybe you're bloated, you've got gas, you can't leave your house because you're afraid you're gonna, have an accident, or you're not gonna be able to find a bathroom. Your belly's just completely miserable. You can't go to the bathroom. It's always a struggle. And maybe you're just exhausted. Exhaustion can come from gut problems. Skin issues come from gut problems. Things like acne, eczema, all of these are related to your gut. And these symptoms of gut dysfunction, some of them you may know, some of them you may not, but bloating, constipation, IBS, pain, chronic joint pain, acne, psoriasis, mood imbalances, joint pain, autoimmune disorders, it all starts in the gut. And this, I'm going to give you an overview, okay? It's down and dirty, simplified, but yet things you may not know or have forgotten about the GI system. We have to understand what's going on when we eat food. So food, we start up here in the mouth. We've got to chew. If you have bad teeth or infected teeth, that's going to affect everything all the way down. But we chew our food, then we swallow our food, and it comes down this esophagus where it comes into our stomach. These little rugae, these linings, this rough lining of the stomach is where you have things secreted. You've got hormones that are secreted. You've got hydrochloric acid. It protects us, but it also helps to digest our food and kill off any bacteria we may have eaten. So that's what's happening in here. And then we've got the liver, which is in this in the top right corner of your abdomen is the liver. This is where all the detoxifications go happening. This manages your glucose. This manages your cholesterol. So there's a lot happening in the liver. It's a very important organ. This is your stomach, and you got a pancreas. So the pancreas secretes hormones also that helps to break down food, churn it all up before it goes into the small intestines, which are these big, all the squigglies here in the middle is the small intestines, where more enzymes are secreted and more things are happening to break down our food, and pushes it into the large intestine, which circles around then to the anus, and we excrete our food. All right, that is the gut. But the stomach is the part where acidity is needed and it breaks down our food. The liver does detox blood sugar, makes cholesterol, bile production, estrogen metabolism. So high estrogen can thicken the bile. And if the bile is thickened, then you're going to have trouble. You can get sludge, you can get gallstones. You can also have poor breakdown of food, which will lead to poor excretion of estrogen itself, even though it's part of the problem. Estrogen dominance can occur, but if you don't have the right kind of bile, you can also have constipation. So now you have trouble going to the bathroom. Then we have the small intestines. Again, they secrete digestive enzymes, break down our food, and absorb nutrients. The large intestines continue to absorb water, electrolytes, peristalsis, which is the movement through. So it's like there's little muscles inside of the large intestines that push everything through to get it all the way to the end. And that's what peristalsis means. And then it eliminates. It helps us to eliminate our toxins. Now, what is the microbiome? Okay, this is a collection of microorganisms. These are live, living things. I hope that doesn't creep you out. But there's bacteria, viruses, fungus. It's supposed to live there. It's its own little ecosystem. And it's important for supporting the immune system, digestion, mood, and even brain health. So there's this thing called the gut-brain axis. Our microbiome sends reports up to our brain via this thing called the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is a nerve that runs from our brain all the way to our gut. It's the longest nerve in the body, and it connects those two. So a lot is happening between the brain and the gut and that microbiome. So now constipation, let's talk about this, because this is one of those big concerns I hear all the time in my practice with ladies. Constipation can be dangerous. This is less than 3 bowel movements per week. And there's a lot of factors. There's hormones, thyroid, metabolism that goes into whether or not your bowels are moving correctly. The problem with constipation is poor elimination, meaning if you're not eliminating toxins, you have an increased amount of toxins in your body. And we get exposed to toxins all the time. You can help to, manage those easier. Your body can manage toxins if you're able to get them out. It has to be a well-oiled machine that processes the toxins and says, see ya, and they're out the door, literally the back door. The problem is, another problem with constipation is hormone imbalance, because extra estrogen is excreted through the bowels. So if you're not going to the bathroom, you have too much estrogen. You have estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance can cause perimenopausal symptoms. It can cause you to feel like you are losing your mind. It can also cause hormone-related cancers, specifically breast cancer. And then you're uncomfortable. Constipation is not comfortable. And it increases inflammation in your body. And we've talked about inflammation in our other modules. It is like throwing, gasoline on a fire. Inflammation is causing all kinds of problems within our body. And it is that core part of, chronic disease. It's inflammation. If you want to know the truth about all of it, inflammation is the driver behind most diseases. So you need to be having 1 to 2 soft bowel movements a day. This is a Bristol stool chart. So if you take a look through here, what kind of bowel movements do you have? Type 1, 2, 3, 4, from severe constipation all the way down to severe diarrhea. But we want to have type 3 or 4 bowel movements. And it tells you a little bit about there. One of them, it says, lacking fiber is a type 5. Now, constipation, you need fat, you need fiber, you need motility, you need hydration, you need bile to lubricate the intestines, you need a healthy microbiome. These are the things you need for constipation to be resolved. It is very complicated. It is a complicated process. I keep telling you that. I keep saying things are complicated. They are. They're very complex, but they can, again, be managed. Bloating. Now let's talk about that one. So bloating can come from what's called a dysbiosis, SIBO, SIFO, leaky gut, and food allergies. And I'm going to go over what each one of these things are. Dysbiosis. This is an imbalance of those gut microbes that I was telling you about. This can lead to acne, infections, discomfort, bloating, a poor immune system, autoimmune disorders, fatigue, inflammation, and poor digestion. All of this is happening from dysbiosis. SIBO, what this means is a bacterial overgrowth of the small intestine. So small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is where you get bloating, abdominal distension, abdominal pain, discomfort, nausea, diarrhea, fatigue, weakness. All of this is from SIBO because those microbes that are overgrown in our gut are taking over. Okay, they're bubbling up and they're making you sick. Then we have SIFO. Now, this is a fungal overgrowth of the small intestine. So same concept, just this is a fungus instead of a bacteria. And this is very, very hard to treat. You might have SIBO if you've got white patches on your tongue or your throat. A thrush, itching, burning of the skin. A lot of people think of fungal infections, they think of the vaginal canal. That's one place, but you can have it everywhere. And if you get frequent Candida infections, then you may have SIFO. That is how Candida or yeast infections have to do with gut health. You can have difficulty swallowing. You can have burning in your esophagus. It could be swollen and inflamed. Because if you've ever seen, a baby with thrush or with a yeast infection, you see how red and irritated the tissue is. Think about that throughout your body and down through your esophagus and throughout your immune system. That can be from a SIFO. You can have inflammation. Here's the big ones: fatigue, hunger, and mental fog, because the fungus is taking over. The fungus is taking up your food, your nutrition. And that's why you're always hungry, because the fungi, they are eating your food. They love sugar. And so they eat it up and that leaves you hungry. And then some people lose a lot of weight because of this, or others gain weight because then it's the inflammation that's causing them to gain weight. So it's all over the place. You can have depression, weight loss or weight gain, and a tremor. Those are the symptoms of SIFO. Now, this is what the gut's supposed to look like, in case you've never seen this before. So the gut is supposed to be like this all the way over to the side, these nice tight junctions between them. Nothing is supposed to fit between these cells that line our gut. But when you have inflammation, which like we were talking about with stress and increased cortisol levels, it starts to weaken that barrier and you start to get gaps in between here. And when that happens, all these microbes that are supposed to be like bouncing off of the cells and getting passed down and eliminated are starting to drop through these cracks in the junctions and get into your bloodstream. And so that damage, allowing those toxins in there, can get into the bloodstream, and that's how you can get joint pain, headaches, autoimmune disorders, because these things are foreign. They're not supposed to be there. And so that's why autoimmune disorders are self-attacking self. Well, you may look like you have an autoimmune disorder, but I've heard the new term that people are calling it a subclinical autoimmune disorder or a seronegative autoimmune disorder. If you have a seronegative autoimmune disorder, it didn't show up in your blood work, but they're diagnosing you with that, chances are you've got a leaky gut. Chances are it's a gut problem, not an autoimmune disorder. But things like celiac are true autoimmune disorders, and they can destroy your gut unless they're taken care of and identified. So now, hormones in the gut. This is where we get into the parts that I love. And estrobolome. Who knew, right? Estrogen in the microbiome. This is a collection of bacteria in the gut that can metabolize and alter the body's circulating estrogen. A whole set of microbiomes of a microbiome that works just for estrogen. Isn't that crazy? So estrogen levels can impact weight, libido, and mood. So we want our estrogen to be in balance. I think we're going to beat that to death throughout all of this series, but estrogen is important. We are women, we need estrogen. The gut microbiome regulates estrogens through this thing called beta glucuronidase. This is an enzyme that breaks down the estrogens and puts them into their active forms. Dysbiosis, that imbalance, can impact circulating estrogens and lead to obesity, metabolic syndrome, cancer, endometriosis, PCOS, fertility problems, cardiovascular disease, and poor mental functioning. This is why our gut is so important to our overall health. The liver metabolizes estrogen, sends it out to the gut through bile to be eliminated. If the gut and that estrobolome is healthy, then the estrogen does not get reabsorbed and it is eliminated the way it's supposed to. So it cannot become toxic and you can't become, estrogen dominant. If it's unhealthy, then it goes back into the bloodstream and can lead to an estrogen dominance, and it just keeps getting recirculated. So if it's one of those xenoestrogens, which is a fake estrogen, or it's not a healthy estrogen, but it's inflammatory, you're going to keep feeling the effects. You're going to feel worse and worse, and it has to do with your gut. So this is why a healthy liver and gut are important to hormone balance. And a lot of times in our programs, we start working with the liver and the gut before anything else, which, may not make sense to the average person, but now to you, it's going to make sense because I just explained it all to you. And that's what functional medicine is. This is what we do. We look for the root cause. You have to test and you have to connect all of the systems. They are all connected. We're one body. We're one human. Like, we're not just a heart. We're not just the lungs. We're not, you can't just keep sending people to all the different specialists when it's all connected, because that's what's happening. That's how our system is kind of broken. There are absolute things that our specialists are needed for and that no one else can take their place. But when it comes to things like this that I'm explaining to you, this is a functional medicine problem. This is a functional medicine issue that we can handle. This isn't a rare disorder that needs that specialist. Our specialists are being overwhelmed with cases of things like this that are subclinical, or they can't figure it out, or they, even in your specialty practices, you keep hearing, but everything's normal. I don't know what else to tell you. And you're saying, but I'm miserable. This is where you need functional medicine. This is where we shine. It's its own specialty. So here's some examples of these advanced labs we do for gut testing. So this page right here shows you some of the possible bad guys, or called pathogens, that we could find in your gut. If we find any of these things, they're really bad guys, and they can cause a lot of damage to you and your health. So we got to get rid of those if we find them. And then viruses, parasites, all of these things are what we're looking for in that testing. It also shows us intestinal health markers. So down here in the bottom of this example, it shows us, are you able to break down fats and proteins and carbohydrates? How's your pancreas working? Is there any blood in your stool? Are you at an increased risk for cancer? Is your immune system shot? Are you celiac? Are you having a serious gluten intolerance? And then like this eosinophil activation protein, like, just how sick are you? Just what is happening and how much inflammation is occurring in your body. That is what we see with this test. Then we have opportunistic overgrowth. So this is, this shows us that dysbiosis. So if your immune system is down, or maybe you didn't have enough acid in your stomach because you're taking proton pump inhibitors and you can't seem to get off of those, you're at high risk for these things happening. And it's very difficult to get off of those medicines, but we can do it. And when we get off of those, then you're protected better from things like these organisms taking over. So you'll see like Pseudomonas, which can lead to rheumatoid arthritis, staph infections, strep infections, Klebsiella. There's so many different things. And down here we have a Candida overgrowth. This one is very, very difficult to get rid of. And when this is elevated, that puts you at risk for those things on the top of this page to be elevated. And then H. pylori, it'll show that on the test. So the gut testing that I do is just phenomenal. It shows us so many things. I think it's over 75 different markers, maybe even over 100. Oh gosh, the things I could tell you from it. I think everybody needs a stool test to test their gut. And this is done by what we call PCR testing. And I don't expect you to know that either. I mean, that's getting kind of too technical, but PCR means that it tests for a lot of different organisms. It's different than a culture test that you would get, like if you just send off your stool through a regular lab test. It's totally different. But again, this tells you about your pancreatic function, how you're breaking down your carbs. If you're Oh, sorry. If you're not doing well with those, then we have to look into why, and it might be a SIBO. The secretory IgA, how bad is your immune system? Is it really weak? And how do we fix that? And again, I told you about the celiac, and then calprotectin. This shows us whether or not you're at increased risk for cancer. So these are phenomenal tests to have that show you an insight into your health overall. This again is just more of it's called the commensal bacteria, the ones that are supposed to be in balance to help you to process and digest your food and fight off pathogens. Just some more examples. I just find them fascinating. You just never know what you're going to find in somebody's gut. So the gut impacts the whole body. Exhaustion, mental status, immune deficiencies, cancer risk, autoimmune disorders, pain, hormonal imbalance. I think that I've covered all of that in great detail for you. Gut support, probiotics, prebiotics, activity, fiber, detoxification. That means through the liver. But let me give you a warning. If you have SIBO or SIFO, probiotics will make you worse. You will feel worse. That's one of the tests. Probiotics also can't fix everything, especially if we have some of those nasty bugs growing in there. We've got to get rid of them. The only way to know is to test and activity to keeping your elimination going. But that's some of the things that we do for your gut health. Healing the gut, you have to be aware of your symptoms. You have to get tested. You have to improve your elimination, support the liver, and you have to have patience. And here's my functional formula again. This is how I work through our problems, helping you to find your balance and get you out of that state of exhaustion, fatigue, and misery. Identify, protect, repair, rebalance, and rebuild. Functional medicine is for every woman. Every woman. There is something that we can find to help you, every woman, whether it's preventive, whether it's corrective, rebalancing. It is not a reactive type of healthcare. This is how we rebalance you, and this is how we put all the pieces together so that you can live a long, healthy, and happy life. If I have, piqued your interest or any of this sounds like you, and you would like to take some action, this is how you do it. You book a hormone rescue strategy session with me. That is where we spend 15, 20 minutes diving deep into what's going on with you. We see what we can do to help you, how functional medicine can play a role in your life. We go over the programs I have to offer, and then hopefully we get started. I love doing this. I love helping women. It truly makes a difference. Your whole health and your future and your hormone balance can be as simple as checking into your gut. So hormones.marshajonesnp.com/book now, or just go to marshajonesnp.com and hit one of the booking buttons, and it'll bring you to my calendar, and we can find a time where we can meet one-on-one and we can talk about you and your health. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you do partake in all of the series that I have to offer you.